Hey ho hey ho hey ho yo hey ho hey ho hey ho hey. We got a 1 and 2 and a 3 and a 4. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the TikvahMinds show. We had a getting organized. We had a good week last week. Good end of the week last week. Our family took a little bit of a vacation, a little bit of a time away, and got out of the house. And it was short, but it was sweet. It was awesome. It was awesome to get out and yeah, that was awesome. It was well needed. So just yeah, well needed. Something that we really did need, and it was really good to get away. However, I did get a little sun kissed, so that's okay. Getting kissed by the sun is good. It is good. Let's see here. Let's see what we want to talk about today. So, a couple of things that I wanted to share. One is that I kind of wanted to go over just a little bit of as artists, and I think as the theme goes, as artists, this idea of self-doubt. And so I wanted to cover that today. But before we get to that, and also I look for this, today's show is roughly going to be about 30 minutes or thereabouts is where we're kind of sitting. So, but let's see here. So one of the things I've been, like I said, last week, I think, was it last week? I don't know when it was. Maybe it was so long ago. I ran through the actual comic book pages, where I was quoting from the comic book pages of the Captain America, where, the whole thing about him questioning the American dream, right? So I was going over that and that sort of thing. And I ran into this article today from CBR, and I don't know if I'm set up for this to show it to you guys. Let me see if I can do that real quick. Get rid of two things real quick here. Last week, I think it was last week, I shared about that and just how I no idea what he was referring to. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. And I have no idea what this writer was referring to in the sense of, particularly in the sense of like this idea of promoting that the hatred being promoted. It's so silly. It's just absolutely silly. This idea that racism is on the rise, and if nothing else, it's from the political people are constantly chewing on that rawhide, and they can't get enough of it, and it's ridiculous. And I think that's just what's going on there. Get my screen ready. Okay, let's see if we can do this now. We'll get there. There we are. Yeah, that better? I don't know. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. So Captain American controversy arises following loaded question poll. Well, the funny thing about this particular article that really caught my eye was the fact that here's this loaded question. I won't tell you what the loaded question is, but people are going crazy over it. What the heck is Diamond Distribution doing? Jeez. That's all it states. I don't know who runs CBR.com. What a bunch of goofballs. In particular, this article. I mean, crying out loud. Obviously, I know we're all goofballs. We're all sort of like figuring this out as we go along. But Diamond Distribution, I've never been a fan of their business model. I don't, the ethics that have been involved in the promotion of pushing DC, Marvel to the top of the list, and that you have to pay to play, basically. And to those publishing companies paid to play, and they get their comic books pushed to the top, and they will then ship, the books in whatever condition they're in, take it or leave it, comic book store, and the comic book store is left with the bill, basically. So I've never been a fan of Diamond Distribution at all, not remotely. But with that being said, I have, if you go to, let's see if we can go there real quick. But if you go to their website of freecomicsbooks.com, one thing that's nice about it, and I think this is where like the good side of distribution, Diamond Distribution, where they're at least alluding to the comic book fans' feelings, and they're at least acknowledging them, which I think is a huge step in terms of what's happening currently in the industry, and kind of what they're doing. And we are in a place where there's all sorts of opinions and all sorts of ideas, and I appreciate the fact that Diamond Distribution, or this freecomicsbookday.com, is willing to present questions and have a discussion. That's all we're asking for. It's not that we have it all figured out, or we have the one and only right opinion, or that all this sort of stuff. It's one of these things where each and every person, we give it our all, we do it our best. We're certainly for the promotion of all sorts of ideas and opinions, and put it on the table, and let's hash it out and figure it out. And more often than not, we need to learn to listen more than anything. But in any case, Diamond Distribution, they're doing their thing. And this article, CBR, it's like, why is this so controversial? Just to mention the question. What loaded question? How can you present a loaded question when there's no loaded question? It's sort of ridiculous. Anyway, I did find the question on Comics Unearthed. I thought that was interesting. Let's see here. So here's the quote. Here's the loaded question. Hey, comics fans, there has been an ongoing debate about Captain America lately. So we wanted to ask your take. Are you tired of seeing stories where Steve Rogers loses faith in the U.S.? Or do you think it's more than appropriate? Let us know what your comments and so on and so forth. We'll talk about our show on Wednesday, blah, blah, blah. That's the loaded. How's that loaded? It's loaded in the sense that people, it's just, the only thing loaded was the comic book itself. So this isn't a controversial question. How's this remotely controversial? We're having a discussion. We're talking about it in the age of censorship. That's loaded, I guess. That's loaded. So anyway, there's the question, whatever. I wanted to show that real quick. And Steve Rogers, whatever, just come out of the closet. It's okay. Let's see here. What else we got? There's just all this hooded stuff going on too. So, get rid of. I do look at these political cartoons, like this, for example. Hey, need a lift? And it's this pack upside down American flag. This guy looks like Antifa 100%, but they're clearly promoting the fact that these are all the things that Antifa said 100%. They're implying that the American people are a bunch of Nazis. But it's clearly we're like, these are all the things. Overthrow the president. I'm pretty sure Antifa said that. All these things. Kill cops. Antifa said this. Antifa said all these things. Whatever. Get out of here. Let's see. Banning in comics. There's the hooded thing. Well, I just got rid of it. The hooded thing. So I don't know. I think it's one of these things with this that we're constantly there it is. We're constantly being bombarded with this entire thing that I don't know. I don't know what this is all about. There seems to be some sort of thing like this sort of thing. We got to get rid of the hoods. Right. People are speculating. Best I can come up with. People are speculating about this entire idea that they're referring to the idea of white supremacy. I don't know. It's Cobra Command. Of course they're a bunch of crazies. I don't know what's going on. Other than I get it, my intuition, and I guess this is one of the things that, and of course in the article he goes on to ask like, what's your thoughts on this? Because it's just like, this is crazy. My best intuition is more along the lines of this thought that people are any way to get us divided and fighting with each other. That's the only thing I can come up with this. And just like, because I found this other article where they're doing the same sort of thing. I don't know. This could be, and it could be, there could be nothing on this, just water under a bridge, so to speak. But I don't know. It just get like, and I guess like the reason why I get that sense, and of course you have these actors that are just nonstop. But this response, just about the coof and all this sort of stuff, and it's just like, come on, people. Clearly, Sean Penn he's a goofball. He's doing his thing, staying relevant. He wants to make his acting and get paid and be relevant, and maybe he believes in this stuff. I don't know. Whatever. Who knows? Whatever. Moving on. And of course, you have the other side. This guy's never getting an acting job again. Never get an acting job again. He's done. His career's over. At the moment he's supporting the people of Cuba. Yeah. All right. You're done, buddy. You're no longer working in Hollywood. So goodbye, Andy Garcia. It was a good acting career. Now that you're done, I guess. That's too bad. Too bad. Can't have opinions now, right? At all. Can't have opinions, ideas, everything, all that sort of stuff. And I won't even add an article on more hood mask stuff. We won't even hit that. We won't even touch that. Not today. So what I did want to really hit on, though, before we wrap up this show, today's episode 127. And if you go to our website, I should show that, but if you go to our website, there is we have our awesome blog. And on our blog is just a way to, it's more or less our window into, this is what we view as our Patreon page, where all of our content, instead of working through Patreon or working through some other company or some organization, this is our home base, our brick and mortar, if you will, for all of my Elijah Loving sort of stuff. And I should sign out there. And the other thing about that is that, yeah, you can see all that fun stuff. Okay. So one of the things about it is that within our blog, kind of all of our different posts and those types of things, anything from, and we need to post actually our latest video on our views on education. So we'll post that into our blog. But in any case, there is a comment section down here at the bottom. Just have to fill in your name and your email address, and then you can add your comment to today's show. So that would be greatly appreciated. Again, this is our home base. You can certainly, I think we'll post this to SoundCloud, and this will go to iTunes and other places. But this is definitely our home place, and we want to invite you to share your comments, and we will put it out there. Only thing I would ask is we certainly, and our goal is to keep it PG. Let's keep it in that realm, if at all possible. And again, with the ideas of lifting each other up. And I know that you're probably like, well, how can you lift each other up when you just spent the first half of your show tearing down all these things? Well, again, we need to have discussions, right? We have to have open discussions of what's happening and what we're going through. And I think in a lot of ways that one of the current things happening is a loss of our identity. And what is our identity? I think that's the big question that all of this is asking. And I guess my point of showing some of those other arenas in terms of what's happening is that we are in the process of defining of who we truly are and who we want to be and fulfilling that purpose. That's my point. In that we don't get lost in the weeds of that, but that we come to a cohesion of who we are. And one of the things is that, as artists, does anyone really care about our artwork? I mean, really, does anyone really care about our artwork? And certainly that can bring just that thought alone can bring a lot of sort of anxiety, self-doubt. My work's not good enough. It's never going to be good enough. What's the point of doing it? It can certainly bring about a lot of those questions, feelings, and we can absolutely get lost in that. And, looking at my notes here, and I think it's one of these things that it's ultimately, they're really two things, or really two aspects of that, is that our perspective, when we have that self-doubt, and because we all have it, we all feel like our work is crap. No one's going to ever pay attention to it. What's the point? All these types of things that I think the first and foremost is us changing our perspective, and thus realizing that our perspective is wrong, and that we have to, I think that's something about, I can't think that the astronomer, dude, Neil, I can't think of his last name. Start with a D. I want to say Neil Diamond, but that's not it. But that knowing enough about a subject, but also knowing that the possibilities that you can be wrong, and that you're open to those, to learning, essentially, is basically what that means. But that the other aspect of that is that that we need to ultimately be, because we all face this self-doubt idea that our work is not good enough, who cares about our work, all this sort of stuff. But that it's really about changing our perspective and changing it into an opportunity. That our failures can be learning moments, and that, a negative past is nothing more than the possibility of a positive future, right? That's our view. And that in changing our anxiety from that nervousness or that angst or all those types of things, in funneling that into a sense of gratitude of what we do have, and that fear can easily change to accomplishment of what we have accomplished, all the hurdles, all the disasters, all the things that we've overcome, small or not. And that even if there's like inches, that's an accomplishment. The day-to-day grind, especially over this past year, it's been incredible just to go from, I've accomplished, I've gotten through this, And that ultimately loneliness, because that's the another side of this past year, is that the sense of loneliness, of being abandoned, and that changing that actually, you know what? There is someone out there. There has to be someone out there that can appreciate the work that, as artists that we're doing. There has to be. And we have to hold on to those truths. And it is a truth. There are individuals out there's no doubt in my mind that will admire and appreciate and encourage your work in one form or another. There has to be. And, I think it's sort of a thing that it really comes down to sort of 5 principles, if you put it that way. And from a Hebraic sort of thing, and kind of throw that out there too, is that 5 is a number for mercy. That's kind of the idea behind it. And that's really kind of basic level, but that's kind of where it is. And that, everything has a part to it that is that has meaning behind it. And the words that we use, it has meaning behind it. And even though we might necessarily, even if you don't necessarily believe in sort of a spiritual or whatever, all those types of things, but that this idea that by simply saying no one cares about my work, nobody does. Well, that automatically carries with that ideas of self-doubt, and it already carries with it a sense of negativity that can imprint. And you say that day after day after day after day. And one of the things that you can do is change that positive into a sense of you know what? If no one cares about my work, here's what I do have. Here's what I have right now. That's the start of gratitude, right? Real basic kind of stuff, right? So that sense of gratitude and changing that, sort of negative self-talk, if you will, and then practicing that on a daily basis of changing that of what you actually do have. And that through that, you'll actually start noticing that, one of the things is that, yes, you're going to have negative thoughts of, yes, I look at my work and I'm like, this sucks. Okay. Instead of dwelling on it, okay, it stinks. So what? I'm moving on and I'm going to continue to grow and develop. So that's kind of the first thing is acknowledging and realizing the words that we do use, right? And then through that is ultimately the changing of our story. Is that realization that, life, instead of life happening to you, life is happening for you, or in other words, for your created purpose in terms of what you are ultimately designed to do. And we all have that aspect in one form or another in terms of what those different skills or abilities or those types of things are. And changing your story instead of, because life happens, there's no doubt about it, but instead of to you, because the only thing, we can't control life, we can't control the things that happen to us. We can certainly control our outcome to those things, and through that outcome, we can control the idea of, instead of happening to you, it's for you, in a sense of for an opportunity. And that's sort of the idea of, changing your story of how you're developing as that artist, which certainly gets into the other ideas of, which is the third sort of this thing, is to take care of yourself. Be it exercise. We took a vacation last week, stepping away, realizing where you are, and taking a moment and cherishing those around you that you do have, and spending more time with them, those types of things. Which meditation, prayer, there's a number of ways that sort of thing can be done. And then the next step would be, ultimately through that, is facing your fears. We all have fears. We're all afraid, but we have to ultimately face them. And so, for example, one of the biggest fears, I think, as artists is that we're afraid of talking to other artists, or we're afraid to get on this type of platform. I'm talking to a camera right now, or who knows who's on the other side of this thing. It's so nebulous and crazy. But in reality, facing the fear of, you know what, if nobody cares, then I guess this isn't worthwhile, right? That's not okay. I had that thought. I've moved on back to the previous sort of steps. But you know what? I know that my experiences, what I have been through, are so incredibly valuable to my life. There has to be someone out there that it is that this, be it information, this perspective, can help someone else out there. There has to be. Out of how many billion people, 7 billion, whatever the number is right now, there has to be someone's out there. And that's sort of like, you know what? I'm going to face my fear. I'm going to go after it. Or I can't read. So what? I'm going to face my fear and I'm going to go after it. And I'm going to learn how to read or learn how to make comics or whatever it is. I'm going to face it. I'm going to immerse myself in that experience. And I think the last thing to all of this, which in that immersion process, is that the importance of giving back. One particular story about that is that there was a contract that I put forward a few weeks ago, and it didn't end up working out. But I know for a fact, and there could be a myriad of reasons why it didn't work out. And again, that's sort of the life happening, right? Instead of looking at life happened to me and that, oh, they rejected and all this sort of stuff. In reality, what it is that, you know what? I gave them really key, and I mean really key information. I have no doubt the information that I did give them in sort of this breakdown or proposal sort of a thing, I know for a fact it helped them. There is no doubt in my mind. And at a bare minimum, it presented a way where I could actually give back. I could give back to them. Who knows if it will come back or it'll come back from them and that amount will be doubled physically or otherwise. But maybe it might come through other means that I could never have expected, but that only comes from the fact of being able to give back. And that's why I'm doing this platform. That's where we're doing these sort of podcasts and these types of things, this radio show. And since it is that, we're putting it out into the ether for you, for whoever it is out there to grab on and realize, you know what, I might stink at what I'm doing, but I absolutely love doing it. And I'm going to give it my all and learn all there is about it to keep improving each and every day. Done. Drop mic. And I think that's exactly the message that I wanted to share today. In terms of self-doubt, there's always this boogeyman. There always be this 50,000 foot monster or some sort of alien being or whatever we're afraid of, or those types of things, these nebulous ideas, but that we can ultimately realize, you know what, gratitude and having that life, having, the preservation of life and liberty to be able to talk through it, to discuss through it, and then ultimately to be able to have that gratitude, which is that pursuit for happiness, having gratitude, which requires humility and always, always, always willing to grow. You guys are absolutely amazing. That's all I have to say for today's show. I hope you guys